Okay, looks like we're running.
All right.
Okay. Welcome to the Zero to Business podcast. This is Hendrik and Jakob, and we'll give you an insight into how we started our own businesses from zero, so you can make your own history. Perfect. First of all, cheers. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
To the year 2 of the Zero to Business podcast.
Exactly. Are we rolling?
We are rolling.
Perfect.
Looks all good. The system is set up. I turn this down so I'm not gonna look at it all the time. Topic of the day.
Lessons
Learned from the first year.
running the business, basically, right?
Exactly.
All of the lessons, all of the fuck-ups. I don't know if we can sort of beep it.
The things that we fucked up, and what are we actually gonna change or what is gonna change with our companies in 2022?
Yeah, more like a goals or like the changes.
Where are you
just
heading?
said.
What are you taking out of those lessons that you learned, and how are you gonna apply them, or how are we gonna apply them?
Exactly. So, from everyone who doesn't know, right, me and Hendrik, we are running both our own agencies, software digital agencies. For basically right now, it's been a year around that, right? Plus minus a year. And Hendrik, maybe you can start. Let's maybe start with the biggest lessons of the previous year. So of course there will be different lessons for both of us because we have a little bit different backgrounds, different experiences. What is your biggest lesson when it comes to running software agency or business in general from previous year?
I think the biggest lesson that I've learned was having the endurance, having the stamina, taking the lessons, taking the things that happen, not as big problems. Everything is gonna be solved at some point. Everything is gonna resolve, and the things and the trust that you need in the process, and those things will all turn out well once you keep on going.
Yeah.
So, in a time of a pandemic, or in the time of the COVID pandemic that we had, if we start a company, it's always a crucial way because it can go one way or the other. So it can work out or it cannot. I mean, that's something always can happen, but we're living in a different economy. People are not spending as much money in one field. When I started off, I was working with clients in the gastronomy and restaurant sector.
Yeah.
They don't have any money right now. So they're all taking back. They're all not spending any money on digital things. But other sectors are also still going. And I think in some parts we got lucky. In terms of we were prepared for the right just prepared for at the right time for the opportunities that came our way, and it all came together in the end that everything we did actually worked out. And I think that's the biggest lesson for me is you need to keep going. You need to trust in what you're doing.
Oh yes, definitely. Just not give up, right? That's the case. If something doesn't work right now, it doesn't matter. It doesn't work in general. I mean, the easiest case would be if you try to sell e-commerce stores right now and you won't be able to. It doesn't mean that it's not possible to sell e-commerce stores. It's more like you haven't tried enough, right? You haven't built a brand. You haven't established yourself in the market. I mean, there are a lot of cases, but in general, I think I know what do you mean. And I've seen a lot of nice charts on Twitter, on famous influencers like Jack Butcher. I think, I don't know if you know him, from I would need to check Instagram profile, but I forgot. But anyway, the thing is, it's definitely about like a long-term game, right?
Yeah.
It's not like the one golden hit and you won. It's a really long-term game, and it's great it's great learning, and that's great that you actually learned that, and now you know the rules of the game, and you will be here for a longer period of time rather than give up. So it's perfect. That's great.
Yeah, I think like summarizing it is like giving up is not an option. So for me personally, that's a personal thing that I learned before that. But for us as a company and as a group, even I had to learn that again.
Yeah.
And quitting is not an option.
No, that's
and
great.
That's for me personally something that I would say is a big lesson that I'm taking.
And good that you mentioned that, because probably first that was for you for like freelance work and some other stuff, but it was for you. So those rules, but on your own. It was same for me for like Instagram, for example. Just the easiest case, right? Like I was posting daily, nothing comes and so on, but I didn't give up. And then suddenly I was gaining crazy amount of followers, but it was only applied for me by myself. And now you are the group, so the whole group needs to understand it. So you right now are like having a ship, and you can just jump from the ship, right? You gotta stick together, and that's perfect. That's great learning. For us, I mean, maybe it's like beginner mistake or very beginner learning, but it was something we really learned, and it really causes a lot of damage to us. Almost nearly made us close, basically, or like kind of change the whole company and maybe go back to like some other jobs to bring their income. So that was the vacation period. I mean, again, for advanced entrepreneurial, this is something very obvious, but that was our first kind of year when we experienced it. So basically the vacation period, like we weren't prepared for it at all. We thought that those months like June, July, right, mostly those two, they are like any other months. Like basically I'm talking also about the whole year when it comes to months. Like we didn't know the differences between months, so we didn't really take care that, for example, January, February, March, those are basically the best months to like get the projects. Like everyone is kind of getting the budgets and like buying new stuff. And then over the vacation period, no one is really working. And we learned it on our own. We couldn't close anyone. We spent crazy amount of money, like probably around 9,000 to 10,000 euros for all of the business expensive in order to close anyone, and in the end we didn't close anyone. So that was very big learning. Now for this year we actually are going with the right mindset. We are getting actually prepared for it. So this is something I can share. Whenever you start your own business or something, please don't ignore it. Otherwise, you would really experience, and I don't wish it to anyone to happen.
Yeah, it's this is actually a big lesson that I learned from like seeing the numbers from the hotel, and that's where I got used to it and figured out, okay, there's actually differences.
It's called seasonal.
Yeah, exactly. It's seasonal. There's different seasons, and in a hotel, for example, the months of December and January, it always depends on where you're located. But for us, it was like the December, January, even February were probably 50% of the business that we had in June, July, and that was like seeing that made it so crazy for me to be like, okay, there's a big difference. So we do not make like amount X of money every month, but it's different, and you need to see it on a yearly basis.
Totally.
And if you start like in the beginning, it's so hard to do that. Because you are starting off and
you're on a hype train. You're ready for everything.
Every month we're gonna make 20,000. Like we need to get 30K stable on every month. No. Stable, like a steady income of 30K per month means that on an average over the year you make 30K per month. Yes. There's gonna be months where it's gonna be 40, and there's gonna be months where it's 20. And also, this is a big lesson, because there is going to be months where you make 20, and in those 20, if you have expenses that's over 20, and you're saving up like 5,000 every month in your in your account for the company, and you have expenses in that are 25, and you're calculating with 30 in August, for example, but you're only making 20, you're losing money.
Oh yes.
And the first thing as a business owner that happens, you panic.
Oh yeah.
You're like, oh, why are we losing money? Like, how?
Yeah, I mean, revenue doesn't mean profit.
Exactly, and so you're losing money, but you need to see the bigger picture, and that's where it comes down to in the end.
Yeah.
Like,
no, that's
you need to see a year as a whole thing.
That's for sure. And then I have, for example, other very good learning. This is something we really learn. I'm not sure if you actually experience it, because in your case it's a little bit different. But what we did with few people is we hired them for like full-time, part-time positions without really being prepared for that. So right now what we do is whenever we have, for example, projects or whenever we need something, we mostly hire contractors, freelancers, just for those tasks. So we know what we're paying for. But when you hire someone for like full-time, part-time position, then they are on the payroll for you all the time. And you really need to, first of all, take a lot of time to plan and give them the tasks. But also there will be times that there won't be tasks at all for them, and they will be on your payroll. And with this, we actually had to fire in the end. It wasn't that we couldn't afford it. It was actually because of other cases. But still, we had to fire 3 people this year. I mean, previous year, because of this mistake. We weren't prepared. We are paying a lot of money for the services that could be really done on like maybe 20% of what we are paying in the end, especially like social media services. Like we are paying a full-time position to create just social media content. And then we realized that we could go, for example, on Upwork or like Fiverr, or even just find like freelancers somewhere and just pay them for actual work they do. Yeah. So that's also our really good learning that we got, and we won't do it again. Like we won't.
Well, when it comes down to the fact that you need to plan for a year.
Yeah.
So when you're calculating employees, then you need to see their salary for the whole year. So they're gonna cost you this year. They're gonna cost you 50,000. And on the other side of that what's it called, like on the other side you have the
value or like the profits they do.
Exactly. What are they gonna what are they bringing to the table? And especially when it comes to hiring people full time, new people will take about 4 to 5 or 6 months until they're actually like onboarded fully.
Yeah.
So when it comes to that, you need to see a span of 2 to 3 years, and you need to be ready to invest into that. So that means you need to have, let's take 3 years, 50K per year, 150,000, and within those 3 years they need to bring it in. That doesn't mean they need to bring it in the first year, 50,000, in the second 50, and in the third 50.
Yeah.
But if you're planning like that, and it's really, really hard as a small, just barely alive company, just started off, to plan 3 years ahead.
Of course. I mean, when you just start, it's very hard to, especially when you start without having experience, it's kind of very hard to imagine this. I mean, I'm not talking about experienced entrepreneurs who already created a few companies, right? This is kind of obvious, but I mean, in my case, when we are starting as a freelancers, we really didn't know what to expect. We were just, the only thing we were worrying about is how to get the new project, the new kind of job and income. That was the only problem we had. But now, of course, we look at it totally different. First time in the year, we actually sit with the team. Actually, we spent like 8 hours, created a whole Notion page, and we actually did all of those, like, you know, those SWOT analysis and so on, like that we've been teaching in like schools or like in business universities. That I like. But me personally, whenever I had it in like past, I was like, what the heck is this bullshit? Like, I'll never use it. And we actually really sit that, and we use those business tools for like 8 hours, and this completely changed our game. Because when you really analyze your actual case, your company, it's totally different, and I love it.
Yeah, so I had to do, like, I didn't have to do it, but well, I had to do it. We wanted to apply for a scholarship in Berlin, and they needed a business plan, and I wrote a couple of business plans, and they never turned out any way like I planned or I hoped for. But in the end of last year, I actually sat down and wrote one of those business plans. And just looking at it, I planned through all the numbers, like the whole thing. First year, every month, what expenses do we have? How much are we growing? Like, how many people are we going to hire? All of that, we had to do that because we had to show them that we're serious. We're planning everything. For the second and third year, we had to plan the quarters. And that all comes down to a lot of numbers and brings down so much clarity into what you're actually doing.
Definitely.
Because you're like, okay, so if I want to scale up like that and I want to bring in, like, I want to get, like, let's say 100 clients for this one service or for this one product that we just launched. This also means that for 100 clients in 1 year, we need 10 people. So 10 people cost me this much. That's how you can actually calculate how much one client can cost you or needs to make you in revenue.
Doing the proper math is very important.
It's really important because it all comes down to it. Because in the end, if you're not making any money, you're going bankrupt, you're going home, you're shutting down.
Definitely. And good that you mentioned that you actually put this all like on a paper, like whatever, Excel spreadsheet or whatever. The thing is that it's very important to do those summaries of plans and so on, and because then I call it helicopter view. Like you have a helicopter view on what is actually going on your company, because that was also a case in our company. This was that I was handling a lot of stuff on my own, and even my co-founder or like other employees who were responsible for business development, they had no freaking idea who we are working with, because I was kind of keeping them just on my own. And once we actually sit down, all of us, and put everything into one page, we all actually right now see what is going on in the company, what are the actually really plans and so on. So that's very important. That's a great lesson. And that's something that we actually started to do in like 1 month ago, and we'll continue till the end.
That's amazing. So just looking back, I have another big lesson that I think was really important to learn and to accept. And probably I would call it like passion. Like there's nothing, you're nothing without passion.
Yeah.
Because what we went through in the past year was we started off as a web develop agency. We started designing websites in February together. The crew.
With Daniel.
Exactly. The crew that we have right now, we started off in February, the 4 founders. Then we onboarded Niels in June in May or April or something like that. And so we built websites, and all we were looking for were websites.
Yeah.
But deep inside, I think we all were burning for something else. We had a passion for more than that. And this is now developing even more. From the first day on, we're like, okay, we're utilizing our expertise in building websites to leverage people and projects, so we can actually use that kind of money, so time, to build our own products.
Yeah.
That was the game plan from day one. And we actually used different kind of products and not just the websites to build something.
Of course.
And we learned that there's way more to it, and that the passion actually leads to more success. Because the website projects are actually not too lucrative. Like we're not getting too much, like so much money that we can't handle it.
Yeah.
And it's still a lot of work.
Yeah.
And it also feels like a lot of work. But when it comes to different projects and different things where you're even more passionate about, for me personally right now, it's the brand that we built, My Recruiting, is actually getting people into companies. They hire people, and the work is different. It's less, but it's definitely as like if it's less because I'm more passionate about it. I think that might be the reason.
All right, no,
and so that's why it's also working so well. That's why we have so many things lined up for 2022 in that field, because I'm so passionate about it.
Yes, that's for sure. I mean, it comes to being passionate about what you are working on, then it doesn't really feel like working, right? I mean, that's great learning. I mean, basically for me, creating the business around software, that's a passion already. But then you also talking about the right thing. I wanna kind of mention it because the passions also a little bit changes over time. That's interesting. So for example, in my case, and this is a kind of like also a goal for this year, is for me personally, but also like it's important for a company, is to take me completely out of coding. So I'm no longer working in a company, but on a company, basically. So I'm not a coder anymore, because that was, I still code a lot in company. And that's why actually even I started, because I was really passionate about coding. I had a great experience as a coder, as a freelancer. But now when a business is kind of really moving somewhere and we are expanding, growing teams and so on, now I get actually passionate about more on the business side of actually handling clients, more like managing teams, building the brand and so on. So that's also something to keep in mind, that when you run the business, your passions might change, your responsibilities might change.
Of course.
When you were a coder back then, now you actually may step out from coding completely, and that's completely fine. In my case, it's actually a goal. So
yeah, I had a conversation about exactly that yesterday with my colleague Rob, and co-founder, and we're talking about the fact that I basically stopped coding in probably May, June. That's where I basically was like, okay, I'm not needed anymore. I can do other things, and so I'm more on handling clients, handling the business itself, figuring out like all the bookkeeping, all the accounting, and all these kind of things, keeping the direction in mind. And this is something we also need the coding work done. And right now this is all done by Daniel, Rob, and Willem.
Yeah.
But I was talking to Rob yesterday, and he was like, dude, I'm so exhausted. Like yesterday I had 4 or 5 hours of meetings, and I just can't. I'm like, okay, this is so interesting, because I can sit down, I can do a 12-hour meeting marathon.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
No worries, no problem. I'll be dead afterwards, but I can handle it. I can do that. What I can't do is 12 hours of coding.
Exactly.
I can't do that anymore. And so everybody is moving into his or her place, and Rob is actually like, he wants to step out of the coding part as well.
And he wants to actually not code.
Like he wants to take himself out more and more,
but
so he can focus.
I know where is code where's Rob right now, because he's in exactly same spot where I am right now, and this is the worst one, because you need to code to bring income.
Yeah.
And at the same time, you need to handle clients. And what's the worst part in between is coding requires a deep focus. Like in order to get to the deep focus mode, you also need time. And it's very easy to get out of the zone, like super easy. Yeah. And we have a client, and whenever you have a client at the same day and coding, this makes your work very hard to do. Like for me, when I have to code and when I have a clients in between, like my work is really unproductive. Like I can't tell that it's productive. So it's very tough to do both of those.
Yeah. So that's why I in the beginning tried to take like as many of those client meetings as possible and take them away from the others. But at the same time, right now, we are building different brands. Yeah. And building different brands means we need different people to build those brands. There's not just me building 3 different brands. Yes. There's right now 1, 2, 3, 4 people right now building 4 different brands. That you can see on LinkedIn. We are building personal brands with companies behind that will scale up or will become a little bigger over time. But all of that takes time, and I think this is something that the others with Mieli are also passionate about. At the same time, you can't have one brand and 4 people building the brand and nobody doing the work. So
for sure,
if you want to do that, you can do that, but you need a lot of money to hire the people doing the work while you build the brand. We don't have that. So we're actually building and branding at the same time.
Which requires a lot of work.
At the luxury split problem way, where we're building 4 different brands that are actually, there will be 4 different brands by the end of this year, maybe even 5 for sure, that are actually planned out right now.
It's kind of like the next question I want to say, but you already started telling about this, is where is Mieli in 2022, right? So let's continue with this as you start, but just want to mention that.
We'll get there in a second.
Okay.
But so it's important that you take yourself out of the responsibility of coding, and in order to do that, you also need already a solid brand, so you have the revenue to pay people to do the coding. And this is a really big, this is a really complex problem, because right now we don't have the money to pay people to do the coding, but at the same time we are scaling to the point where we need more than one person building the brand or the brands. And this is a crossroads, where it's okay, we need to go there, we need to go there, we need to go there. At the same time, we still have Mieli as our headquarters. And this is super interesting. I'm super excited to build all of these things this year, because there will be. It looks like I got a message on LinkedIn the other day. So are you guys now splitting up? Are you all doing your own, because you all have your own LinkedIn differently branded? And no, not at all. Not at all. It's all gonna come back together. It looks a little bit like it's splitting up, but there's always this cloud hovering over everything, which is called Mieli. And this is what when we started out, Mieli was not a software agency. Mieli was a way of living. Mieli was a feeling. It's a family. And for that family, there is microding, there's Bright Apps, there's the NFT part, there's Automation Rock, there's Mieli Digital as all the digital. There's so much more that's going to come.
That's very
It's all part of that family, and it comes down to a personality, to just a way of building a company, building projects, living life, and having this so-called work-life balance, which I don't think is a work-life balance, shouldn't be that. But that all coming down to the point where everything we do has this background of, let's do it with passion, let's do it for the humans, and let's do good work.
And that's what the Mieli stands for, right?
Yeah.
So the mother, the core of the company. And that's pretty cool. I mean, I want to ask actually this question, but I already answered, because I was also kind of thinking why exactly, how this can work out, right? If everyone kind of goes to different direction, but then in the end you actually are connected. So that's pretty cool. And I mean, I wish you great successes with this. I mean, I already see how the recruiting tool is working out, right? Or the hotel thingy. It's also your software is working for.
Oh, it's true. I just forgot about that. The Ask Marias. There's
also another one, which is the product, which is actually bringing income, which is crazy. I mean, if I think about it, I mean, for us, it's actually a different way around. We were doing this in previous year. We kind of were splitting into Deltologic Bulgaria, Deltologic Poland, Germany. We actually, what we really wanted to do in the beginning is do a Deltologic kind of like a franchise, that we have Deltologic, we give you our brand, our knowledge, our developers, and we kind of create new founders and smaller companies under the big one. But in the end, it didn't work out. I'm not gonna lie. We had to rethink the whole business plan. We had to rethink everything again. And in the end, we all united. We are actually all working right now on this one idea, which is Deltologic, which is clearly software agency with 2 main focuses. One is building fully. So the goal is basically to become a technology partner with other companies. Right now, the biggest problem is developers. Everyone wants to have a great developers, but it's very hard to hire great developers. So what we come with is we are filling this gap and we are providing basically developers or the product. So we are trying to do as much partnerships with companies as possible, which means we are becoming your technology partners. Like literally, we treat our clients as a part of us, because we know that if our client grows, we grow. It's like win-win situation. That's basically it. So two main services which will be definitely a focus for this year and next year's is building whole products from scratch, which is coming from consultations, product design, UX workshops, to actual really coding and giving doing trainings for the employees. So it's like a really full journey, full story, to just providing developers, which is a team extension service. So for example, you're running the company, you get crazy funding for your recruiting tool, 5 million, you need suddenly 10 developers, but you don't want to spend time to hire new developers and so on, and you don't need actual 10 developers for 3-4 years. You just need them right now for just to finish the one part of the project. Then we provide you a team for next 5 months. So those are our focuses, and that's how we see, for example, us bringing it next year.
So you're going to be focusing on the
building software
team
solutions in-house and providing actual teams.
And you're doing both at the same time?
Exactly.
Okay. And
I'll tell you why, because this really fits each other. So let's say that we have our team, let's say it's 10 developers, and now we get a client and he needs a project. We build this project for 5 months, and now those developers are basically free. There's one developer needed just to maintain the existing project, but 4 of the developers who are on our payroll, they are kind of free. So now we get another client and he's actually looking for those developers for a few months, but he is already having his team. So we are actually extending his team for a certain period of time. So the money is coming, we provide value, and we keep our team and so on, and the brand as one, as Deltologic.
Okay, so what's your big goal for 2022? When you have to put it to one goal.
Basically extend, literally hire developers and
do you have a number, is it 2 or is it 5?
We have a goal.
Okay.
We'll see if it's possible. It's a little bit random, but it is. We want to hire at least one developer for 1 month. Every month we hire a new person on the team. But for this we need a project. Yeah. So it's very challenging, but this is our goal.
So by the end you want to have 12
new developers full time. Exactly.
Okay.
And that's the goal. That's how we see our brand. And of course, we are very early. I mean, all of the other founders who are running those businesses, they're 10, 15 years. So it's very early. Might change a lot. That's why we record a podcast.
Oh yeah, that's the thing why we do this.
That's our journey. We'll get back and listen to it in 10 years.
And it's also just taking it back 1 year. You start off with Deltologic. Back then was self-made, I think. Yeah,
exactly.
And you were doing Python. You were just doing Python work.
Yes.
And you did different projects. You learned over the year, and now I think they properly call it pivoting. Mm-hmm. So you're switching a little bit the focus of the business after 1 year.
Yeah.
And you're going into a certain niche that you see.
Yeah.
And you're trying new fields basically because you're more passionate about you see more opportunities there, and it just fits more into what you do.
Exactly.
And on exactly the same thing, on our journey with Mieli, we started off building websites. We wanted to build websites, and we were prepared to do websites for 3 years, basically. But turns out there's more to that. And once you get going, and you said something, building the brand is super important.
Very important. Yeah.
And from that, we are getting to a point where, okay, the websites are cool. We want to do that. We want to still build those prototypes because that's the focus of Mieli itself. But this is also getting to a point where we don't want to build all those prototypes. But we want to focus on the things that we are passionate about and even more passionate about, and get more into it, get more passionate, find new things to be passionate about, learn about these things, expand these, and even share this with others. And this is how we started our own products. We saw an opportunity, we got into it, we are developing into it, we're giving it our own touch, and the responses that we get are super amazing. And they are not because we built the best software, we wrote the best code, because the code that we're writing, there is probably 100,000 people out there that can write as well, like code as well. They can solve the same problem.
Exactly.
No doubt about it. The difference is we do it our own way.
Yeah, the approach.
Exactly.
To it, and customer, the brand, and your values.
The communication, the values. And that's something that we learned over the last couple of months, that the values that we provide, like that we have, the things that we have from our mind, our mindset, the heart that we put into it, this is the game changer. This is the whole difference. If we go with the same passion, and we go out and we start doing something that we've never done before, we will get the same results.
Yeah.
Because it's not about what we're selling, but
I mean, the
people behind it.
The easiest case is like, check this from this side. We both started in the beginning kind of the same thing in the mind. Software agency companies, and now check where you are and where I am, right? Like those are completely two directions starting from the same spot. So that's really amazing to see it.
It is really interesting. And I think 2022 is going to be a really exciting year with everything coming. The loosening of the pandemic, we're getting into a point where our community, our society is moving more together, and we're getting more to a point where it's really something coming together.
That's perfect.
And new opportunities will come.
Definitely.
In such a vast...
And it's a great year to start your own business. So.
Oh yes. Jakob, we're closing in on the first episode for 2022.
Great.
If anybody has any more questions, feel free to reach out. And I think we're going to do this a little more regularly this year.
We have to, definitely. At least once a month.
Yeah, that's the least that we can do. Alrighty, guys. Check out everything on social media, LinkedIn, on deltologic.com.
Exactly.
Deltologic.com. I'm reachable on mieli.de, mycruiting.de, LinkedIn, Instagram.
Jakob Wolitzki, basically.
Jakob Wolitzki. You can find me on the Hendrik Niehues on Instagram. If you have any questions, reach out. Thank you for listening, watching.
And see you in the next one.
See you in the next one. Cheers.